What's going on, Falcon fan? This your boy Rakundo coming back at you with another video. So, guys, we are back from the bye for the Atlanta Falcons, heading into Monday Night Football against the Buffalo Bills. Of course, this is a big game. It's Monday Night Football. However, we're not the only game on TV. It's another game going to be played on Monday night as well. So, but between four games um, on TV, it's going to be good for everybody to see from a national standpoint what the Atlanta Falcons look like early in this season. Um, Atlanta Falcons have had, an interesting season to say the least. I think when we look at what we have seen over these first 4 weeks for the Atlanta Falcons, I think most of us as fans agree that probably the defense is ahead of the offense, right? I think it was the other way around. And we're looking at coming to the offseason, we thought that the offense was definitely going to be ahead of the defense because of all the capital that the Atlanta Falcons put in the offensive side of the ball. But that was not the case. And the Falcons have failed to live up to the hype so far on offense. Um, from a scoring standpoint, I'm going to get into that in just a minute when I talk about what I mean by that. But from a scoring standpoint, the Atlanta Falcons have yet to to be the offense that we thought. They have been playing, in my opinion, it's a little bit different. Forcing them to run the ball, not giving up the shots like we want. But Atlanta Falcons need to be consistent doing what they're doing, and hopefully, the ties will turn eventually in the favor for the Atlanta Falcons in that aspect. But this week we're going to talk about what can we expect from the Atlanta Falcons coming out this 4 week bye. I mean this bye from the first four games. Of course, Atlanta Falcons now got 13 straight games, so buckle your seatbelt for that. Hopefully, they can stay healthy through that. Don't get too many bumps and bruises because a lot of games to play. Um, before you even go into the playoffs, let the Atlanta Falcons get an opportunity to play in the playoffs. But so what we can expect from that. So we're gonna definitely going to get into them site to talk to you guys today. Haven't been here on here for a while. I took a bye, just like the Atlanta Falcons took a bye, and I'm back to talk about Atlanta Falcons. I'm excited to be at Monday Night Football this Monday to see what they are all about. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here that I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come hear me talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. So first of all, guys, we're gonna get straight into the injury report for this week for Atlanta Falcons. Notable, we as you guys recall in the Commanders game, Darnell Mooney went out with a hamstring injury. He did not practice this week. He did not practice today. So more than likely, he's probably not going to be ready for Atlanta Falcons here. For the Monday Night Football game. That gives him another week, which would probably be 2 weeks period for him to recover from that hamstring injury. Don't know how severe it is. We haven't got a word on that, but look like Darnell Mooney. So it looks like Casey Washington probably be stepping in along um with Ray McLeod coming in as well with some minutes. David Seals maybe coming in. It looks like Cardell Hodge is going to be back as well. So both of those guys, all that committee of receivers coming in to fill in for Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney only got 79 yards on the season due to his injury situation. So um, Atlanta Falcons really need to be looking at that third receiver, which makes Kyle Pitts, emergence these last 4 weeks really be really good for the Atlanta Falcons. So we're going to see how what's going on with Darnell Mooney. But Casey Washington, Cardell Hart, Ray McLeod, David Seals, all those guys coming in, filling in for Darnell Mooney, and we'll see what's up with that. Of course, also looked like Clark Phillips did not practice today as well. So here's another guy that might be out. It seemed like Natron Brooks did come back from his concussion. So of course, he had a week off. So like he's going to be ready to go this week. Also, they decided to actually start the 21-day period for Taquan Graham as well. It's going on 3:30, so we'll see if Taquan Graham gonna get activated this week, probably next week. But he has 21 days. They brought him off the injured reserve list. So of course, when you bring somebody on injured reserve list, you have to cut somebody. We'll see how those transactions, transpire with Taquan Graham coming back off injury. So that's your injury report. Of course, go look at the Buffalo Bill injury report. The only big news on that, like Ed Oliver is going to be coming back from being out 4 games with an ankle injury. Matt Milano, their linebackers, like he tore his he hurt his biceps, so like he might be out this game. So look like we pretty much playing with a full squad for the Buffalo Bills against the full squad for the Buffalo Bills. Like I said, except for Matt Milano. So should be a pretty good game. And that's your injury report. Like the Atlanta Falcons going to be healthy. They're going to have everybody ready to go. All right. So, guys, today, instead of me doing keys and victories like that, since we had to bye, I want to pretty much go over, what can we expect from the Atlanta Falcons coming off the bye, right? So, 4 games is a good kind of judgment to look at where you're at as a team, right? A lot of teams, because when it used to be 16 games, a lot of coaches they broke the team the season up in quarters, the 4 games, the next 4, so on and so forth, right? So you can kind of look at it the same way. Yes, it's the 17th game, but you look at the first 4 games, you kind of get a gauge of where your team's at. And for the Atlanta Falcons, you look at 3 out of 4, you kind of see an identity what you want the Atlanta Falcons to be, right? Especially in 2 games. 2 games, you can tell the Atlanta Falcons is definitely a running team, and they want to utilize, the running game to set up all their pass and stuff like that, right? Point, they're aggressive. They lead the league in pressures. They set the point. That attack style defense is really showing up for the Atlanta Falcons. So coming off this bye, looking at that 4 games, it's not a big sample size, right? Because especially if you throw that Carolina game in, because I think that's an outlier game. Outlier. If you look at the 3 games, like that 1, you kind of see what you kind of can envision what this Atlanta Falcon team look at. And you look at that one Carolina game, you just like inexplicably you don't know what happened. You can't explain, that Carolina game. So you're kind of looking at 3 game sample size, which is not a lot of games, right? Especially when you look at the fact that Atlanta Falcons did not play a lot of guys in the preseason. So you just got the, if they're knocking off rust and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to get a really good sample size out of 4 games, especially you take that Carolina game in this entirety. You can't take no good out of that game at all. So, it's going to be tough for them to figure out. Hopefully they did. They sat down and they did make the adjustments they need. Like I said, 13 straight games coming up. So the Atlanta Falcons really need to stay healthy and get into some kind of rhythm, and see can they come off with some wins here. All right. So the first what I want to do is talk about the offensive expectations for the Atlanta Falcons coming off the bye, right? So you looking at the Atlanta Falcons coming off the bye for offensive expectations, right? You really want to continue to build an organization that they had in Commanders game. What I mean by that, of course we know they did make a change. They got rid of their receiver coach, which I think seemed like a scapegoat in that. However, they did bring Zach Robinson down to the field. They moved over TJ Yates to the receiver room, who was the pass offense coordinator. And you start to see some semblance of what we kind of expected out of this offense from the Atlanta Falcons, right? So they need to continue to build on that, right? The communication, the organization. One thing about when you're looking at offense, you can tell they're organized. You can tell they're got some kind of flow going. The offensive coordinator and the quarterback is on the same page. They kind of can read each other's mind, where they're going with the next play and things like that. Go back to that 2016 Super Bowl run that Atlanta Falcons had. Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan kind of reading each other's minds, right? If you guys recall, they had an interview, and Matt kind of knew where Kyle was going with the next call because they kind of knew each other really well. Once they get into, that kind of flow state between and quarterback, it's going to be really something really special, right? You look at what Drew Brees had with Sean Payton, right? It can just get in the system. You get what Andy Reid has with Patrick Mahomes. Those the kind of relationship you want to try to build. Quarterback, offensive coordinator relationship. It's kind of hard nowadays because you know these guys come and go, right? And then you have to start all over again. But at least with this season, this is the second year for Michael Penix and Jack Robinson relationship. See, can they kind of build on that organization, that relationship, and they start to kind of understanding what they need to do. That's one of the things we expect from this team. You want to continue to rely on the run game, right? That's the identity of this team. It's the run game. If you look at 3 out of the 4 games, even the Carolina game, the Atlanta Falcons was able to run the ball, right? They was able to run the ball. Now they got to get away from the run in the Carolina games because the game got out of hand, but for the most part, they was able to run the ball. Of course, you look at what they was able to do in Commanders game and the Minnesota Vikings game, they was able to run the ball. That's the identity they needed to continue to do that. And once you do that, one thing that has been lacking for the Atlanta Falcons, like I said, it's a small sample size, is the play action game, right? You heard Zach Robinson say that if you did watch his interview, he said the play action is a big part of his offense. However, we haven't seen a lot of the play action because how the game is dictated a little bit, right? That Minnesota game, they couldn't stop the run, so it's really no need to do play action. We ran over 200, almost 220 yards in that game, right? We could not run the ball at all in the Tampa game, right? So it went to a passing game more than a running game in that game. The Carolina game got out of the way, and then we was able to see some of the play action game a little bit more in the Commanders game, a little bit where we want to see this Atlanta Falcon offense go. So continue to utilize the identity in the run game, and then go ahead and try to get the play action game going. I think Michael Penix, could really flourish in utilizing the play action, right? His ability to do bootlegs, to do the keepers and things like that. Also, the fact how well we run the ball, right? It's been strange that teams are allowing the Atlanta Falcons to, run the ball, which is because they can't stop it. So then they so reluctant to put 8 in the box. So they just kind of letting the Atlanta Falcons run the ball, which brings me to the fact that Atlanta Falcons is number 7 in total yardage in the NFL right now because of. So we've been moving the ball up and down the field. If you've been watching the games, the Atlanta Falcons haven't punted a lot. Bradley Pinion is not getting a lot of punts out there. You go ahead and look how many punts Bradley Pinion been getting the game. It's not been a lot because Atlanta Falcons have been able to move the ball, right? So it's not the fact that they can't move the ball. So the running game has really been working. And what was happening, they've been limiting the passing game, but you got to continue to run the ball and force those defenses to get out that them 2 high safeties up there, so you can start to utilize the play action game, and then you can take advantage of the 2 high safeties, right? We all know the middle of the field is open. Those seam routes, those drag routes and stuff, especially when you're playing too high, they got to utilize that, especially when you do play action pass. So I think if they can do that, it's really going to be really, really good. We just got to see more of the play action pass. I think it'll really unlock this offense a lot if they was able to do that. The next thing is they need to continue to take advantage of the mismatches that they've been getting, right? The mismatch with Kyle Pitts, his defenders that's been on him, it's been almost a mismatch, man. It seems like every time. So they need to take advantage of that. And then who's ever guarding Bijan Robinson, especially if they put a linebacker on, is a mismatch. I think you're going to see eventually they're going to start putting a defensive back on the field to cover Bijan, because having a linebacker on him is not fair. He just taking advantage of that. So we want to see that transpire over the time. And that's one of the things they definitely do. So expectations with that, to continue to take advantage of the mismatches. So, and then the last thing is we need to score touchdowns. I just talked about Atlanta Falcons going from 20 to 20 up and down the field, but they're instead of scoring 6, they've been scoring 3. I think if you um, DJ Shockley, one of his things was this week was they need to score 6, not 3, and I agree with him wholeheartedly on that. They need to start scoring touchdowns, man. They score touchdowns. It put more pressure on the opposing offense to come down the field. Um, and one good thing, Atlanta Falcons, right now they're 41% on third down, which is 10th in the league. I think they need to raise that up maybe by like another 4%, get up to 45%. They can get a 50, right? But if you can get up that 45% third down percentage, that's really good. So you can see the offense is trending in the right direction. We just need to see them capitalize on things that's working for them, and that's the run game, the play action pass. They need to get a really uptick in that, take advantage of mismatches. They really been taking advantage of that, and they need to score the touchdowns. Right? If the Atlanta Falcons do that, those expectations, hopefully that they saw, you know, of course the technical things that they probably went over, things like that, probably looking at things that have been working for them and what has not been working, things that haven't even went through yet, because it's a long season, it's a big playbook. So some things that they can kind of roll out, especially this Monday night game that the Buffalo Bills had never seen, would definitely be helpful for them. But those are my expectations coming out um, of the bye for the Atlanta Falcons on the offensive side of the ball. So I definitely want to hear from you guys. Let me know your expectations, what you think the Atlanta Falcons should be thinking about from an offensive standpoint. But continue to run the ball, uptick in the play action pass, take advantage of mismatches, and put some touchdowns on the board, vice field goals, right? And that third down conversion rate, they can raise it up. Um, we'll see what happens. What's going on, Eddie? So that's what I think from offense standpoint. Atlanta Falcons do those things. From offense standpoint, I think the Atlanta Falcons next 13 games. Remember, 13 straight, which is pretty much the whole college season for some of these guys. So some of those rookies that's been playing really well on defense side of the ball, it's like they're getting ready to start another college season. So um, let's see how that goes for those guys. All right, let's go to the defensive side of the ball and the expectations I have for the defense coming off the bye, right? Um, well, what's interesting, something that you probably never heard in a long time, is the Atlanta Falcons has the number one defense in the league, giving up only 244 yards a game out of 4 games, right? Even that lopsided game against the Carolina Panthers, they still didn't give up a lot on the defensive side of the ball. So they have the number one defense coming into this week, which is really, really good, going up against the number one offense in the Buffalo Bills, right? Um, so this is going to be an interesting game. Buffalo is a running team. They lead the league in time of possession right now. Atlanta Falcons is second, by the way. But so we know what the Buffalo Bills want to do. They want to come out and run the ball. That's something that the staple do. Now, part of their running game is, of course, their quarterback, Josh Allen. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Atlanta Falcons do this. But um, one thing that Jeff Albrecht mentioned, and that what he wanted. So the expectations based off what the coaches looking at is start to try to get home with your front four, right? Limit the blitzes. Now, as we all know, the Atlanta Falcons is the number one pressure team in the league right now because of the simulated pressures that they've been generating throughout these first 4 weeks. So, but he don't like doing that, right? Because it's kind of messed up the integrity of your defensive backfield when you have to send somebody else, send the fifth man out there, right? So he wanted to start to establish that 4-man rush. Um, and he had to do that because he wants to generate the pressure. So we understand what he want to do. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this Buffalo Bill game on Monday Night Football. Do they do? If you go back and look at what the New England Patriots did, they didn't blitz a whole lot in that game, right? They kind of kept the 8 they kind of kept 7 in the defensive backfield, tried to get home with 4 to kind of keep Josh Allen contained a little bit, right? force him to be a passer, even though he's a great passer. We know he can touch every part of the field with his arm, but you want to be able to try to limit him. So if you generate pressures, that's how he get out back doors and things like that. One thing that I think the Atlanta Falcons need to do is implement a game plan. In this game in particular, right? I think they should utilize the spy, right? And interesting enough, I know it's a guy that's really, really good at that, and that's Jalen Walker, right? They kind of utilize Jalen Walker. Even K Nellis, one of those guys. They create a spy for Josh Allen because this is where most of his plays generate from. That second play, what Atlanta Falcons defenders are calling right now, is you know the ball is hiked and Josh Allen gonna go through his read 1 through 4, but then he likes to move around, scramble, and try to get to the second play, right? And that's the of course we all know that's a scramble drill for the pass catchers in the outfield that requires the secondary to actually stay attached to their guys longer. But what I'm thinking about is, in particular is him trying to run out and get yards, right? You put a spy on him. Like I said, I think Jalen Walker is perfect. That's something that he's done so many times at the University of Georgia. I think he has the ability to do that. So I would think instead of sending all that pressure that they've been sending these first 4 weeks, which they lead the league in pressures right now, kind of tone that down a little bit for this game in particular because of the quarterback and how he likes to play. A lot of his plays and a lot of his big plays come from unscripted plays, right? It's off schedule plays because that's how he makes his living because he's so dynamic that way, right? So what you want to do is create a spot, keep him bottled in, um, and then let's see how their game plans work. Um, that's one of the biggest things that I think Atlanta Falcons need to do this week. But that's one thing I think they need to do moving forward is go over what the defensive coordinator wanted is start the rush only 4. If they can they're able to do that, that'll be really great for them. I think for this game in particular, they need to generate that spy on Josh Allen, and then one thing that we definitely need to see from Atlanta Falcons, not just for this Monday Night Football game, but moving forward, is being better in run defense. They're not terrible in run defense, but some of the numbers are skewed, like I said, because of some of the big runs that we have seen. Some of the runs from quarterbacks, in particular, you go back to, the 3 runs that Baker Mayfield had in the first game. Marcus Mariota kind of got out one time on us, so we kind of limited him. Um, I always say the Carolina game was a wash. Minnesota, we kind of dominated that game. So um, but in that Commanders game, we did have a big run that gave way. So the numbers kind of skewed. But with that being said, Atlanta Falcons still only gave up 200 and some yards in that game as well. So, but got to be better against the run. Now, one thing about this attack style defense, and everybody knows that those guys are attacking upfield, right? And the whole mindset of that attack style defense is you stop the run on the way to the quarterback, right? That's pretty much what I set up to do, but it's a way to do it. It's a technique to do it. If you listen to what Jeff Albrecht was saying yesterday, basically he was saying is sometimes you go back to your other habits, right? And that's how you get out of position and things like that. So they teach it a certain way. You want to be able to start the run. You're going after the quarterback. I get it. You're coming up field, but you want to create disruption in the backfield on the running game as well as getting to the quarterback at the same time. So that's how it's taught. So they need to be better against the run. And then one thing what the Atlanta Falcons really been doing well is generate turnover. So I expect that to continue going into these next 13 weeks as well. Um, they got, I mean, if we just look at what the Atlanta Falcons got on the defensive side of the ball, they got 3 bona fide ball hawks on that in that secondary, and Billy Bowman, Xavier Watts, and Jesse Bates the third. 3 bona fide um, ball hawks. They really do. All those guys know how to get their hands on the ball, and then of course you create strip sacks and things like that from the pass rush. So can continue to generate turnovers. That's really been helpful for Atlanta Falcons as well. But from a defensive standpoint, I like what the defense been showing up so far. The number one defense in the league right now. Of course, they 2-2 because we haven't seen what we need to see from the offense side of the ball. If we seen that, the Atlanta Falcons could really be 3-1. I'm not going to say 4-0 because that Carolina game, just I don't know what we saw from that, but 3-1 at least, right? I think we definitely could have won the game against the Buccaneers if we just get a couple sacks there on Baker Mayfield when he goes out on 3rd and long, and that be a totally different game. But I still thought the Atlanta Falcons defense played well in that game as well. So defense is looking good. My expectation for them is to even get better, right? Um, it's hard to be number one, and like I said, it's something that it's really not really something that you say about Atlanta Falcons is the number one defense in the league. So that's really, really good. All right, let's look at some of these comments by Eddie, see what he had to say. Even college get by sometimes too. Yes, they do. Yep, they really do, especially the Georgia Bulldogs. They take their buys. New England has nothing but studs on the D line. When the team has now, you do more coverage systematically. We'll see. You gotta look at the game plan. That's the only game they lost this week. Honestly, they can go back and look at that first game against the Baltimore Ravens, because they should have lost that game too. So they got a couple of games they can look at. Now, one interesting stat about Buffalo. Yes, they're 4-1, but their opponents they have played throughout the first 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, right? It's like 3 wins and like 17 losses, some crap like that. So they ain't really played nobody. Let's be honest. I feel like I said, the Ravens, they should have lost that game, but that don't mean anything, right? Any given Sunday, that's why you don't disrespect teams. I hate when the whole idea of, this is a really good team. This team don't have a chance, man. This is the NFL. Every team has a chance to beat every team. You better believe that. So, the Falcons might be an underdog because they got the reigning MVP on their team, but the Atlanta Falcons gonna have something to say about it. Let's just talk about it. Talk present, future, not past games. Dirty Bird. Yeah, whatever. All right, let's get into the special teams, guys. Real quick, let's get into the special teams because special teams are important too. All right, so we talk about special teams, expectations for this team. First of all, man, like I said, we got to get rid of the Carolina game. However, I think when we're looking at the Carolina game, we saw something that was utilized really well in that game. And that was the knuckleball that the Carolina kicker was kicking on the kickoff, right? And I really believe the Atlanta Falcons should take advantage of that, right? You got to study these new kickoff rules and how they're utilizing it, man. Play last night on Thursday Night Football, the kicker didn't get the ball into the landing zone, right? Put the ball on the 40-yard line. That's not good, right? When you start your offense on the 40-yard line, and now the way kickers are kicking the ball, that's automatic. Almost get 20 yards, you get 3 points on the board. So you gotta freaking utilize this new kicking kickoff rules to your advantage, right? That knuckleball that the Carolina Panthers utilized against the Atlanta Falcons in week 3 was awesome. You really like what you saw from that. And that's like kicking it right at the edge of the landing zone, almost to the end zone. So they have to run it back, right? Because if you're kicking in the end zone, right, it's automatically going coming out to the 35. But if you kick it just enough, right, for them to have to return that thing, you might can get a better field position for your defense. So you got to be able to utilize the kicking game to your advantage. That's one of the things that I expect Atlanta Falcons to look. We heard Marquise Williams talking today about studying special teams around there, looking at what teams are doing. Because it's a new rule, this is just in the second season. you're going to see more and more things that special team coordinators and teams are coming up with to try to take advantage of that play. So they need to really look at that and make sure they're taking advantage of it. Um, One of the thing is those squeaky return yards. Our coverage is giving up, has to stop. Right, we gotta have it. We had like one or two every game, which is not good. They haven't scored a touchdown, but they put in their setting their offense up in good field position. So what we want to see is stop giving up those squeaky return yards. That's not something we want to see. Those squeaky return yards is not good. So the Atlanta Falcons can kind of limit that, would be great for us. So you know, let's tighten up on those return yards, that we're giving up on our coverage. And then on our side of the ball, our return game, we got to step up, man. Yeah, we got one of the best returners, that's played in Jamal Agnew, who's back now. We got rid of Avery Williams, man, who's really good for us. But we need to see more in the return games for our team, putting our offense. Marquise always said he want to get that first down for the offense. Well, we need to see more of that. So those increased return yards we get from our return game and punt and kickoff will be huge. Um, we got to be able to do that. And then last but not least, our field goal kicker Romo. We're not going to talk about what happened in Carolina. Like I said, we just need to take that game to the archives and don't bring it back out. Um, but he did a really good job in the Commanders game, kicking the ball. Um, and we just need to see a continuation of that moving forward. This is a big game. This is prime time game. Um, and a lot of people think this got to be a statement game or anything like that. I just think the Atlanta Falcons need to continue to build on what they did in Week 4. Right, that's what we want to see. Yes, you're playing the reigning MVP. They coming off a loss. People, oh, they're mad. They're never going to lose again. Um, Atlanta Falcons know who they playing. They know that they the underdogs in their home stadium, and we know the Bill Mafia is going to be there deep at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium this weekend. I expect them to be loud. Um, so it's gonna be a really good performance. Hopefully from both teams. We expect the Buffalo Bills to come back because they okay. Right, so they mad, right? But Atlanta Falcons and Raheem Morris need to take a playbook from a guy like Andy Reid, right? Coming off of 2 weeks to get prepared for the Buffalo Bills, so you should be ready, right? That's the way I look at it. I don't care how many games they lost, they won. You had 2 weeks to prepare for this team. You got a lot of film on tape. We know what they want to do. They want to get James Cook the ball. They want Josh Allen to be Superman and make out schedule plays like he's been making, right? Um, we need to make sure we don't turn the ball over and self-inflicted wounds like that. Um, and then we need to make sure we continue our our um our dominance and controlling the clock. Right now, it's interesting because it's the 1 and 2 team in time possession. So something's got to give this week between these two teams on who's going to hold the ball the longest. So that's really going to be interesting. But coming off a bye, you know, don't care how many weeks it's been, the Atlanta Falcons need to be ready to play this game, right? Raheem Morris, I think this is a big game for him, not just for the players. I think him coming off a bye, you need to be ready to be able to play an opponent like the Buffalo Bills in a primetime game. You know, we fans always want to see our guys start to get recognition for the things that they do because we know we got some really good players on this team. This is how you do it in primetime games against the reigning MVP. We everybody know who Bijan Robinson is, but people sleeping on Drake London don't know how good Drake London is. Kyle Pitts need to remind them who he is, and Michael Penix need to put the league on notice, just like Drake May did last on Sunday Night Football. Is let everybody know that this is your second year. You coming. Atlanta Falcons have found their franchise quarterback. That's what needs to happen, and I hope that's what we see, right? Um, 2 weeks off, preparing for a team, Atlanta Falcons should be ready to go. That's just my opinion. Eddie says, Zach, leave it in the past for Condo Prescott. You still talking about you still talking about the past. Hey, you can only go off what you've seen in the past. That's how teams create history, right? Because what they always say, history tends to repeat itself, right? So you can learn from stuff that happened in the past there, right? Right? You learn for trends. You can learn for their favorite plays, their go-to guys in this situation of football, what this guy's got like to do on fourth down, what this guy's like to do on third down, tendencies and trends and all that stuff. It's all in the past, right? But you can learn from that and make teams do what they don't like to do. That's what you're trying to do. So if they could do that this week, it'd be exciting. I'm excited. I know you guys are excited. We definitely want to see what the Atlanta Falcons can pull off this week on Monday Night Football. Of course, one game at a time. They go straight from that primetime game to another primetime game. So 2 primetime games back to back. I ask as an Atlanta Falcon fan, don't embarrass us on national TV, right? Let's come out, especially coming off a bye, man. I can just say this, like I said, coming off a bye and you don't play um with the how you should play. You the well rested team, right? You just came off a bye. You should be rejuvenated. You came off a big win before the bye, right? So you want to come out and you want to create a momentum. You don't want to have a win going to bye and come out and have a stinker, right? So you want to be able to show something coming off this bye. That's what I'm got to say. Um, but go, guys, those are my expectations for the Atlanta Falcons coming out the bye. Can they build on what we've seen from them um, these first 4 weeks? It's been a mixed bag, of course, to say the least, on what we've seen. But just to recap some of the things that I said from expectations from offense standpoint, um, you like the fact that Zach Robinson came down to the sideline, so the organization should be a whole lot better going into the next 13 weeks. You want to continue to build on identity of the Atlanta Falcons offense, that was just the run game, which which should include you being better in your play action pass game. You want to take advantage of the mismatches. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, those guys are mismatches for most defenses. You want to take advantage of that. Then last but not least, you want to score touchdowns, not field goals, and uptick that third down percentage. Situation football is always key in the NFL. Right, from a defensive standpoint, you want to try to start limiting your blitzes. You want to start get home with your front four more. That keeps your secondary integrity and that pass rush and that secondary work hand in hand. With that front seven, you want to start to create your game week to week game plan, right? Um, that's how all good defensive coordinators do. You kind of switch up offenses. You catch them off guard if you have week to week game plans, because you don't keep doing the same thing. I know we do like to do, the whole Dan Quinn philosophy. They know what we're gonna do. They just got to stop us. But I just like having different game plans in particular this week. They should make sure they utilize the spy, right? We need to be better against the run game going forward for the next 13 weeks. That's going to be key. And then we need to continue to generate turnovers. Special teams, we need to eliminate those squeaky yards, return yards that we've been giving up over the first 4 weeks. We need to increase our return yards on special teams. At least give us our offense, a couple of first downs going into their first play. They need to take advantage of the kickoff rule. The new kickoff rule is going to a second year. More and more teams are utilizing that to their advantage, and we have seen that rule actually count towards some wins and losses this season around the league. And then Romo, our kicker, need to continue to kick well and make sure the kicking game will not be an issue with the Atlanta Falcons moving forward. So there you have it, guys. It's Monday Night Football coming up. Atlanta Falcons versus the Bill. I will be there Hope to see some of you guys there. Definitely going to check in with all the Falcon fans to give you the layout of um, Monday Night Football and get ready to see a good game here in front of a national televised audience. What's going on, T. Terry? Um, so there you have it, guys. Um, please go out, share this video throughout. Like I said, I took a bye just like our Falcons did. I'm back, ready to talk about the Falcon football. And let's get this W, baby. That's what it's all about. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.